woven jute rug. Her legs were as firm as jello when she stood. Still, she managed to make it to the hallway mirror, where she saw that her normally side-swept curtain bangs had morphed into Medusa snake-like tendrils across her forehead, and she had more flakes on her face than her pet goldfish had in his bowl. She cringed. Rain boots. Her goldfish was 12 years old and the longest relationship she'd ever had. She planted her hand on the wall for support and shuffled over to her bedroom, where a large glass fishbowl sat on her bedside table. Rain boots swam in the exact middle and blinked at Sophie with large, accusatory eyes. "I'm sorry, honey," Sophie croaked out. "I know we have our bedtime routine, but Mommy got horribly drunk." She tapped the glass with her index finger and waited for a response, but none came. Eventually, the silence broke when her doorbell loudly ding-donged and caused her to jump in surprise. The next and bigger surprise came when she made her way to the front door and saw her landlord waiting on the porch. Dash Montrose wasn't a tall man, but he had presence. Part of that was because he always seemed to be fidgeting, tapping his fingers, shifting his feet, or pacing slightly. But also, he had thick arms with swirling, inky black tattoos. It's not that Sophie had stared at those arms in prior instances, but, well, yeah, she probably had. Still, her first instinct was to hide behind the couch because what the hell was Dash doing there? She and Dash lived next door to each other, but they were not close. In fact, Dash hardly ever acknowledged her existence. He lived in the large house tucked behind her bungalow, but he was always walking away in some kind of a hurry. If she waved, he only ever nodded back. She didn't think he was intentionally being a jerk, but he clearly had no interest in interacting with her. They hadn't spoken actual words to each other in at least a few months. She Venmo'd him the rent, and sometimes he left a thumbs up in response. That was the extent of it. But there he was, in jeans and a t-shirt. What could he want? Did he somehow know her funds were about to run out and he was preemptively evicting her? Sophie avoided confrontation at all costs, but she couldn't run away from him, not when his face was pressed against the window of her door and he was peering directly at her. She clutched her arms across her chest, extremely aware that she was still dressed in her clothes from the night before, as she made her way to him. When she opened the door, she was hit not only with the heat from the high sun above, but by the sight of Dash's wet hair slicked around his face. Water trickled down his neck and splotched his faded shirt, like he'd come straight over from a shower, which meant a few minutes prior, he'd been totally naked, covered in soap and water and... "Hey, whoa." His voice cut through Sophie's thoughts. When she glanced up, Dash gave her an uneasy expression, then gestured down the length of her. "What happened?" She never left the house without a minimum of tinted sunscreen. But of course, Dash came on the one day where she closely resembled a Madame Tussauds wax statue melting in the sun. Sophie gently swiped her index finger under her eye, and it came back coated in black liner. Excellent. "Vodka happened," she muttered. She rubbed the liner between her fingers. Something was wrong. Mercury must have been in retrograde. If 13-year-old Sophie had known that she would be renting a place from Dash Montrose, former teen heartthrob movie star turned still hunky landlord, and he was seeing her hungover, she'd be even more embarrassed than she already was. And she'd probably also be delighted, because Sophie had maybe had a photo of him from a magazine cover on her wall when she was growing up. His film Happy Now was her all-time favorite movie. She absolutely did not have a crush on adult Dash, though. Well, he was undeniably hot. No point in glossing over that thick, dirty blonde hair, the dimple in his chin, or any of the other tatted-up details. But he was Poppy's brother, and so off-limits that Sophie had built a wall around Dash in her mind, though bits of the wall appeared to crumble at the sight of his strong jaw.